Welcome. I am KiDra, and today I'm a protogen. Don't worry, you will see why. With this panel I want to read to you my latest short story, written for FURSAverance 2021. I have a group of lovely guests here with me, and after the story, there will be room for discussion. It is you and my guests who will decide what to talk about then. A small request, please bear in mind that I cannot see the chat and have to focus on reading. During the discussion phase, Fastman will monitor the chat and pick questions. Tempest will then ask them for you. Okay, my friends, please mute yourselves. I will not mute you, just for the case that something goes wrong and you can no longer hear me. This is live after all. All right? Sounds good? I will now read to you The Other Side of the Mirror. It was Friday evening, the end of the workday, and the weekend a godsend. Coming home, Gideon pressed a button to call the elevator. Steps echoed in the marble entrance hallway of the apartment building as a crowd formed in front of the closed cabin doors. When the doors opened, people flooded the elevator and pushed Gideon to the back, as if he did not exist. Hey, can someone press number 14 for me, please? A tenant at the button panel selected the right floor. Thank you. The reek of sweat and body fumes built in the cabin, and Gideon shuffled around, feeling itchy. Eventually, the elevator came to a stop on his floor. The doors opened, and he forced his way out. On his way, he noticed the numbered apartment doors, lined up in bland rows, just like the last 10 miserable years. On the way to number 1421, his muffled footsteps left no trail, and he wondered if by now the same was true for his life. As soon as the door was unlocked, he threw his coat and briefcase onto the couch, with no care for where they landed. Today, loosening the tie and easing its grip felt like being taken down from the gallows. An execution delay. On a wall calendar he wrote, "Meeting with CEO and board into Tuesday," and drew a big circle around it. Now he would not forget, even if he wanted to. He turned the calendar around. Monday would be early enough to worry. This weekend was his. The bathroom's cool floor tiles were a welcome sensation after a day in business shoes. A splash of cold water to the face washed away the grime and some of the day's exhaustion. In the mirror, a man with wary eyes and a rapidly receding hairline looked back at him. He looked at himself. As long as you feel young at heart, you are not old. That is what they say, right? Yeah, bullshit. After towel drying his face, he walked into the kitchen. The same old evening routine kicking in. When the smell of peppermint filled the air, tea was ready, and he went to his desk. The computer booted up in seconds. The usual 5 web pages already open in tabs. There were a few new entries in his watch. Nothing spectacular. Likewise, there was no significant news from friends. The fandom was drifting away. It was changing and getting younger. The fandom had been a welcoming place, but was that changing too? Some posts suggested so. More often now, the older furries were labeled creeps for being just that. Older. Maybe, to the fandom, Gideon was like a foreign moon falling from the sky. He felt like a distant satellite, going around in circles, rapidly gaining altitude. Maybe I should get back into drawing, he thought. But instead of pursuing the thought further, he shook his head. The echo of what he saw in the mirror bounced around in his mind. Once he was like them, young and new, no different, and grateful for a place to call home, not to be alone. It was a foolish thought that being furry had a date of expiry. At least, someone always pointed it out as absurd. But was that true? In his mind, Gideon the fox, his persona, began to look old too. I guess we're both ready for the scrap heap, old friend, he thought. The smartphone on his desk buzzed. It was a message from Spartan. Hey, Sly One, you home? If you got time to spare, call me. I got my VR headset. Gideon smiled. He put on his headset right away and called Spartan on Messenger. Hey, pack leader, what's up? So you finally joined the 21st century? Not my fault. It took them long enough to ship it. How are the wife and pups? The puppies are in bed. Listen. Blue told me to take the evening to try out my new headset. Of course, I thought of you. Gideon felt appreciated. That's nice of her, and well, nice of you two of us. You need to make room for single activities, especially in marriage. Otherwise couples get sick of each other. I won't make that mistake twice. Yeah, I get that. I'm glad to see it working out between you two. Believe me, if that weren't the case, then I would not have agreed to having kids, Spartan said. Understandable. So, what is the agenda for today? What do you want to do? I got into Beat Saber. Have you tried that one? No, not yet. It is on my list though. For today I had something different in mind. There's this new virtual reality social app. Maybe you know it? You can pick an avatar, walk around worlds, meet and talk to people. That is supposed to be fun? Gideon asked. The thought of being sociable, even in a virtual world, maybe especially in a virtual world, sounded like anything but fun. Let's try it. It will be nice to meet you there. You know, something closer to meeting in person? Since the wife and I moved places, I can hardly see you. Gideon knew his life alone had left him with a set of ever-rusting social skills. Self-doubt gnawed at his mind. Over the years he began to believe he could be happy in solitude. But that started to feel like a lie. He wondered if there was more to life than the pendulum that swings between work and just enough time to be on the internet. He had told Spartan about feeling alone. Maybe his friend wanted to help him open up. A slow smile built at the thought. Spartan was a great friend, and the distraction welcomed. Alright, let's go. Registering an account and logging in was a matter of minutes. He put the VR headset on, and while the client started, kept on adjusting the straps. The first world to load was a place called Home. There was some furniture, a mirror, and various portals to other worlds. In the mirror, an avatar. A generic robot was visible. Well, charming. That must be the default avatar. There was a pop-up, a friend request from a Spartan Wolfgang. He accepted, and Spartan loaded in. Hey Gideon, there you are. Gideon turned around and saw another robot. So this way you can visit me. That's neat. Somebody already took your name, huh? Huh. Just like yours, Mr. Gideon Foxbeans. Gideon groaned. Well, okay. What shall we do about our appearance? Over at the mirror are some standard avatars to pick from, but they are all rather boring. Shall we head right into exploring and find us some fitting ones? You're not wasting time, aren't you? Fair enough. If you want to spend more time looking at the stickman self in the mirror, I can wait, Spartan said. No, I'm good. Do you have an idea where to go? A friend recommended me a hub world for furries. Sounds like a good place to start, if you ask me. Sounds like too many people. That's fair enough. How do we get there? Let me drop a portal. Follow me through. It will bring us to that world. Spartan was doing something with his hands, and another portal appeared in Gideon's home. As he stepped through, the world froze. A loading screen appeared, and soon a new world emerged with strangers scattered about in groups, talking, minding their own business, or just being outright silly. There we are. I think these pedestals over there at the walls are avatars, Spartan said. Gideon followed Spartan over to a nearby pedestal. Spartan touched it, vanished, and returned as an anthropomorphic dog. He looked at himself over. Not what I was looking for. I don't know. You're married. The domesticated version of a wolf kinda suits you. Spartan's avatar gave him a sour look. Honestly, foxes are the worst. Crap everywhere, spread toxocariasis, leptospirosis. Oh crumbs. I had that when I was little, so I happen to be immune actually. Best thing. Put down a trap lined with newspaper, a bit of sausage. Ha, that's what you think. Let me tell you something about foxes. We are famous for our... Oh, is that today's metro? Gideon pointed. Spartan lost it and was just laughing for a good 10 seconds. Okay, you win. Your Nelson impersonations always get me. Seriously, we really have to watch Mongrels again. But how did you make that sour face? It's finger gestures. I heard most avatars support at least some. Look at my fingers when I make faces. Gideon observed how Spartan's avatar made all kinds of facial expressions. An excellent feature, he thought. He tried to mimic his finger movements. With little luck. That will need some practice. True, but as long as we have no face tracking, this is better than nothing. He continued to look around and tried on different avatars. Spartan found a wolf, one that he was more or less satisfied with, while Gideon ended up with a fox that was too cartoony. He saved it. Well, better than... Hey, my right hand is no longer working. Gideon looked at the controller from under his headset. Is everything alright? No, my right controller turned off. The battery can't be empty, I charged both yesterday. If you want to look at it, I can go ahead and see if I can find us a nice place to hang out. In your menu, you have a friends list where you can join me again. Thanks, I will do that. If I can't make it, then I will send you a message. Sounds good. See you in a bit, hopefully. Gideon logged off and got out of his VR headset. He looked at the controller that had failed and tried to turn it on again. Nothing. He took out his set of screwdrivers and opened the controller. Nothing looked broken. But he saw a possible cold solder joint and quickly tested it. At least it's an easy fix, he thought. He reheated the joint with a soldering iron, put the controller back together, and turned it on. It came to life with a familiar beep. There we go. He attached the wrist strap, lowered the visor, and rejoined Spartan. Gideon found himself in a recreation of a modern coffee bar, with a tree growing up to a glass ceiling above. Ebony wood tables or chairs were loosely spaced around, the room filled with gathering patrons. Spartan called him from a railing above. Gideon ascended the stairs beside the bar counter to a lounge area, with more comfortable-looking armchairs and low tables, where he took a seat opposite Spartan. That was quick. I see you got it fixed, Spartan asked. Gideon waved his right hand. Yes, it was a cold solder joint at the battery. Simple, really. If you say so. By the way, Blue asked me to thank you for helping me fix my kid's RC car. You helped me make them happy. Don't mention it. You did the work. I just guided you via webcam. How is work, by the way? Meeting with the CEO and board next Tuesday, Gideon said. Trouble up ahead? He shrugged. I don't really want to think about it. There's nothing I can do. There was a brief silence. So, what do you think of this year so far? This VR experience? Yeah. How do you like it? Spartan asked. I almost feel like I'm sitting at a table with you for real. It is nice. I missed it. Not too many people yet? It's fine. They're more like NPCs too. Somebody in a near group shouted. God, I'm so pissed. Remember that new premium console I got? One that will launch in 3 months. I paid a premium for the very early edition. The limited one. That bloody thing runs hot and turns off. To be ignored. Gideon sighed. Something wrong? It's loud here. He went into the options, turned down the voice volume for all, and turned Spartan back up. The voices had faded just enough, while still being understandable. Better. If only it was that easy in real life, eh? Well, there are a lot of things I would love to tune out. Like what? You noticed those posts about older folks in the fandom being creepy? Yeah, I saw them, but I would not give them too much credit. By far not as many people as it seemed think that way. Hopefully. But to be honest, it made me wonder when things went wrong. Went wrong? Feeling out of place. You know, you get into a full-time job and before you can count to 3, 5 years have gone by. In the fandom you become less and less active and you feel you're drifting away from this community. I know that feeling. Change is normal, but it does not look like it is for the better. Pretty much, Gideon said. Let me guess, in recent years a lot of what is happening in the fandom just appears immature and silly to you? Didn't want to phrase it like that, but yeah, pretty much. We are indeed getting older. We already left behind what a lot of the newcomers are going through now. Every roller coaster gets stale after a few rides. It does. You see the drama, you know where it will go, and you don't want to deal with the same trifles over and over again. Saying that now, these things were not minor matters to us when we went through through our own heartbreak and drama, right? No, they certainly weren't. Barton shook his head. God knows they weren't. Got to remember that we all were at a similar point in the past. And, well, foolishness is not an exclusive trademark of one age group. I think I was in a similar spot like you now after my breakup. Meeting my wife was my big jackpot, and my kids helped me find my inner child again. How did having kids bring back your inner child? You have to meet kids on their level. When you play with them, you cannot keep a dignified appearance. You don't even think about it and do what is the best for them. If that means you have to be a goofball, so be it. It is a matter of letting go and just being yourself. Meeting people where they are and being authentic. I remember that lesson from leadership training. Curious that I never thought about applying it outside work, Gideon said. It's worth it. Who knows what you might find when you listen to your inner child. Speaking of authentic, yeah? My choice of name is cringy, isn't it? Barton chuckled. Well, -2, I think. I will change my name again to something more mature. It does not feel authentic anymore, just like using the stereotypical furry talk. Like pack leader and puppies instead of just saying kids? Yes, it feels like trying too hard. You're right, I will change my name too. In the future, let's just talk normal. There was a pause and a faint voice in the back. Oh, right now? Alright, I'm pretty sure we understand. I will meet with him tomorrow evening again then. Sounds good. I will be there in a moment. Is Blue talking to you? Yeah. Sorry about that. She asked me if I would watch her favorite show with her. As a compromise, I will come online for an hour or two tomorrow to meet you again. 6 p.m? Sounds fair? Okay. 6 p.m. it is. And hey, thanks for suggesting this. I think I will look around a little more. Still gotta find a better avatar for myself. If you find a better wolf avatar, please save it for me. Will do. See you tomorrow. Gideon did not feel like staying at the cafe on his own. Instead, he decided to go on a journey of exploration. And so, portal after portal, world after world, came and went. As he traveled, he pondered his path and the path that led him here. Exploring like this, nostalgia nipped at his mind, remembering and yearning for old times when his life was still whole and unbroken. There were many worlds dedicated to offering public avatars, and none felt just right. There was one world he kept seeing, Proto-Gym Plaza. He massaged his temples. Maybe there are other types of avatars there too, he thought. It was a small world with a few pedestals on two sides. Clicking one, Gideon transformed and went to the nearest mirror. The face was a visor that showed basic emotions through digital facial expressions. The creature had black fur, fluffy ears, and big furry legs. The Proto-Gen, on the other side of the mirror, smiled at him. Gideon shook his head. The creature's ears flopped around. He sighed, then laughed. He eyed the creature and tried out different hand gestures. The Proto-Gen stuck out his tongue at him. He facepalmed. Silly. But he had to admit to himself that he kind of liked it. Would it be too immature? Gideon remembered what Spartan told him about listening to the inner child. It would at least end his avatar search for today. Alright then, I will give you a chance. With an avatar found and the night being still young, Gideon had no intention of logging off just yet. He wanted to explore more. The list of worlds suggested a few games to try. Gideon stepped into a world that was a murder game. It took him a few rounds to understand how it worked. Either was looking for clues as a bystander, trying to find the murderer as the inspector, or killing the other players one by one. He explored other game worlds where he found board games, first-person shooters, and horror games. Back at his home, he sat down in front of the mirror, the protogen looking back at him. Gideon enjoyed himself, and he felt he was growing fond of this new avatar. But it was confusing. Part of him wanted to admit that he was having fun, and that he liked the protogen he saw in the mirror. The other knew the whole thing was immature, and he should leave all this behind. It was late. With an avatar found, it was time to log off. After all these hours spent in the virtual world, apartment felt foreign, empty. It was too silent. A part of him wanted to go back, but reason and heavy eyelids won out in the end. Lying in a lonely bed, his thoughts were like butterflies, going around in erratic patterns. Another hour passed before night was victorious and dragged him into a vivid dream. Gideon saw faded photos on the walls of an old hallway. All the rooms were open, but a single white painted door at the far end of the hall. He followed a track of fading footprints across the weathered wooden floor through the dust. He ran his finger over the frame of one of the pictures on the wall. It held the wreckage of a brown minivan, with a covered body on the ground beside. Gideon's throat tightened, and he looked away. Happier scenes filled the next. Joyful times, family, Christmas, birthdays, first school day. There was a noise behind the closed door. Somebody was in there. Like a silver string tugging at his heart, he felt the pull of yearning. He wanted to run against the direction of the footsteps, but could hardly move his legs. "Are you all right?" Gideon turned around. "Dad, I think I lost something. Is it important?" Yeah, I think it is." His dad put a hand on his shoulder and smiled at him. "Then it is worth searching. Do you want me to help look for it?" "Yes, Dad. Please." "Okay. I will get my glasses and then we search together." His dad went into the near room. Gideon waited, and when his father did not return, he walked over to the entrance of the room with great effort. Nobody was in there. In his mind, he heard a whisper. Words from beyond the closed door at the end of the hall. Words that he could not hear. That he could hear but not understand. "I'm afraid I don't want to." He coughed, the stench of smoke burning his nose. Gideon could hear the crackling of fire and not the heat coming from the next room. Again, he heard something from beyond the door. A plea. "But I want things to be different." Gideon slid to the floor, tears in his eyes. He felt gravity pulling him down towards the door at the end of the burning hallway. His body starting to slide through the dust as he grasped for anything to hold on to. He clung to the photo of the wreckage. He felt he had nowhere to go. And so badly he wanted to be with the voice that it heard. He looked at the photo he held onto and felt torn between the wish to not let go and the wish to be with that voice. Suddenly, there was a feeling of acceptance. A great calm overcame him, and he let go. Back first, past the fire, he fell down the hall of memory. The door flung open as he fell through. He hit water. Engulfed and submerged in a wide, dark ocean, he sank away from the scattered light filtering through the surface. Fear crept up his spine. I don't want to be afraid. Something embraced him from behind, and instead of sinking further, he rose. He felt something familiar, calm, confidence, acceptance. The surface came nearer, water stilled, and he saw his reflection. The protogen. Looking at his hands and body, he now was his reflection, was the protogen from the other side of the mirror. Squinting through tears, he ran to the open door. He had enough. Gideon pushed through the fire. It could not touch him, the protogen like an armor keeping it away. Shoulder first, he smashed through a wall. It shattered, splinters flying everywhere. And he was free. When he woke the next day, it was just shy of noon. Out of habit, he went to his computer, but this time did not sit down. Instead, he looked at the photos on a shelf next to his desk. Over the years, these framed memories have turned into background noise he no longer consciously noticed. This time, he did. One was a class photo from high school. He knew all the faces well, but could not say what became of them. Some contacts broke right after graduation. Despite his efforts, others faded away over time, and some he had to remove from his life. Shame, he said. He put the photo back and looked at the next, a happy family with many people crammed into one frame. There he was in the picture. Just a boy about to enter his rebellious phase. Next to him, an arm around his son and with a proud look on his face. His late father. Many years after his father had passed away, it became painfully clear that he was the one keeping the family together. He wondered if this was normal. Bound to happen. Just another stage in life? The end of childhood, maybe? Instead of sitting down at his desk, he sat in his recliner, the framed picture still in hand. Yesterday, he was with a close friend and surrounded by people. Today, the stark contrast felt all more pressing to him. He indeed thought that maybe he had not gotten used to solitude, but really only numb to how it felt. The family photo brought back memories from a time when he felt different. It made him remember what was in the wooden chest. He put his mug down and pulled open a drawer. Inside he found a familiar sight of his old comic books. Holding one awakened long buried away emotions he had felt when his dad first gifted it to him. If the paper was soaked with time long gone. Gideon sat down and read. It was Digimon Adventures V-Tamer-01, the manga his father had gifted him because he knew how much Gideon liked the TV show. When he reached chapter 9, he had to smile. If only I were a little younger, I could fight that demon myself, he read, and wondered, not everybody had a demon in their life that could not be slain alone. As he read on, the details he had forgotten came back. and with them, forgotten memories and emotions. The feeling of being sheltered and part of a family that kept together. The lack of everyday worries outside of school. The basic trust in the world. There always was somebody to offer guidance and to help in times of need. Usually it was difficult to focus for hours on one thing, like reading. Today he was not only reading, but sinking into old fond sensations, feeling young again. Hours passed. A pile of comic books was read before he returned from his journey. The room was getting dark with the sun setting. Warmth and calm radiated from his chest like it hasn't in decades. Gideon wanted to see that protogen again and felt antsy to get back into the virtual world. After logging in, he looked at himself for a while in the mirror. The protogen smiling back. Well, hello there. It's good to see you too. Spartan came online and joined him. Gideon? Is that really you? Well, last I checked. So what do you think? I didn't expect you to show up as a protogen. To be honest, I do not yet understand it myself, but I feel a connection to this one. What sort of connection? I felt I saw myself in the mirror as this protogen. I do not know where it comes from though. Well, sorry that I can't put it into better words, but I guess it makes me happy. Then that is all that matters. So, this is your persona now? Spartan asked. I have not thought about it that way, but yes, I think it is. To be honest, I think it suits you. How does it feel to no longer be the fox that you were for so long? Gideon thought for a moment. Weird, like bidding farewell to an old friend. But then again, I'm just me. Maybe I should call it an evolution? Interesting way to put it. There is something familiar about your avatar. It reminds me of something. What would that be? I don't know yet. I feel it sitting on the tip of my tongue. Well, now I'm curious. If I remember, I will tell you. But hey, our talk yesterday made me think. About what? The fandom. We have been here for decades. And looking back, I see a few things different now. Maybe some folks think that we older furs have no more place in the fandom. But needless to say, that is far from true. I think we have a lot to offer. Like what? Through the headset, Gideon could hear Blue talking to Spartan. Oh, bummer. Sorry, buddy, but the kids need me. It should not take long. Can I get back to you in about half an hour? Of course. I will go ahead and explore a bit. Come join me when you get back. Sounds good. Gideon felt relieved. He was glad Spartan liked his new look. Yet, he felt there was something deeper going on. On the list of worlds, there was one that resembled a beach with 2 moons in the sky. It felt like the right place to ponder a bit. When he arrived, he was not alone though. On the beach stood an odd couple. A tall and overly muscular man in green cyber-looking armor, wearing a helmet, and a small anthropomorphic yellow dog in a skirt, whose head reminded Gideon of a bell. He heard the dog shouting, "You never listen to me!" My God, I have been listening to you all evening. I have a test tomorrow and feel not well prepared. But still, here I am, the big guy said. She vanished moments later. Oh great. Amazing. Just leave me standing here like an idiot. It did not feel right to just leave now. Gideon thought he might as well offer an ear. And without further hesitation, approached the stranger. Hey, you alright? What? It sounded like you were fighting. I just teleported in and it was hard not to overhear. Sorry for that. But yeah, are you alright? No. She's my girlfriend and always gives me this shit. She claims I do not listen, but I just spent an hour letting her chew off my ear. I don't get it. Gideon had a hunch of what this was about. Something Spartan once explained to him. Did she tell you about a problem she had? Yeah, actually she did. What? Well, did you just listen to her? Or did you try to help her find a solution to her problem? Of course I tried to help her. I love her. What good is just talking when it does not lead to a solution? I get you. Well, do you want my input on this? I thought that's why we are talking. Right. To her, it may have been more important to share her emotions with you. What do you mean? I guess when she told you about her problem, she was not interested in finding a solution, but that she wanted to share her emotions with you and feel comfortable being vulnerable with you. We tend to be different in that regard, and want to find solutions to problems right away. You wanted to help her and try to work on a solution with her. Maybe she could not see what you wanted to do for her. There was a prolonged pause, and Gideon just waited. That does make sense, actually. Oh, blast, I can see now what you mean. Yes, it makes sense. So, I was in the wrong. No. You two were simply not on the same page. There is no right or wrong here. Just different ways of thinking. Okay. So how do you know all this? Life experience. A friend of mine is married and it pays to listen. It pays to listen, yeah, well. The stranger side. I'm doomed anyway. I have a test tomorrow and I postponed learning for her. Difficult topic? Physics class. You're learning about electricity and it's so boring. I can't wrap my hand around voltage, current and all that jazz. Formulas make little sense and I'm not good at just learning stuff by heart for the sake of it. I mix up the units and don't get what's what. It's also dry and dull. It sounds like they did not teach the basics right. It is easy once you understand what electricity is. Is it now? Yeah. Simply speaking, imagine a water tank connected to a pipe. The amount of charge is the amount of water. And the pressure of the water is voltage. When the water is flowing, the flow rate or current is ampere. And the resistance is the diameter of the pipe. So a generator is like a water pump. Wait. Really? Can you explain it a bit further? Gideon went on to give the stranger a more detailed explanation of how this water analogy related to the real physics of electricity, with conductors, electrons, and more real-world examples. They went back and forth with questions and answers, until the tall guy stopped him, thinking for a moment. What the heck? It makes so much more sense now. We jumped right to joules and coulombs being like 1 amp for 1 second without getting behind those units. Why don't they explain it like this in the first place? Beats me, but hey, remember this. Energy is work. Just like a water pump has to turn to make water flow, a generator has to turn to make electrons flow. We transfer work, the movement of turning, into energy that flows through the power line and at the other end transforms into work again. This can be the rotation of a fan, for example. That is why we are doing all this. Look, I'm really grateful, but why are you helping me? You came out of nowhere and spent all this time giving me relationship advice and explaining my school stuff to me. Because the world would be a better place if we all just helped each other in the small ways that we can. I guess I was lucky that I had something to share today. But hey, the fandom needs some positive energy, and to get energy, you need to put work into it. Alright, I get it. Jeez, man. Is everything electricity to you? You asked that of a protogen? Okay. Hey man, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. You may have saved my butt. I should leave now though. I want to go over my books and let this sink in for the test tomorrow. Good idea. And it was my pleasure. Good luck for the test. The stranger was waving his hands, working the invisible menu. But before he vanished, Gideon received a friend request from him. Guess I made a friend today, he thought, and accepted. Gideon thought about his own analogy that energy is work. He had a feeling that the deeper truth lay in this simple explanation. Maybe even something that was true to life itself. Looking out onto the ocean, the haze in the distance hiding what lay beyond, he let his thoughts fish for this truth that he was trying to grasp. Hey Gideon, Spartan said. Gideon turned around and saw his friend standing there. Hey, good to have you back. Yeah, I'm back for a while now. I saw you helping that guy and did not want to interrupt. You really made a difference there, and honestly, I'm glad to see you being so outgoing. Well, if you really think so, thanks, buddy. I did not feel that different though. Now, trust me, you were, but in a good way. You hide your light too often. It felt good to hear that from Spartan. But he did not know how to respond. Luckily, his friend continued the conversation. You were looking out onto the ocean when I greeted you. Was something specific on your mind? I have been thinking about what I just explained to that guy. I think I learned something about myself while doing so. Really? What would that be? I think my life began to feel stagnant because, out of habit, I tried to unwind when I felt overwhelmed. Thought I would need to ease the pressure once I got into the adult routine of working full-time. Gideon shook his head. This must sound so stupid. But doing this here now, I see I was adjusting the wrong parameter. No, it does not sound stupid. Go on. Now I want to know the rest of it. Well, God, okay. Look, a system is built to certain specs to function. As I explained to that stranger, you cannot change the voltage, the pressure at will, and still have a device function. What is variable is the current. And when I think about what this could be, to me apply to my life, then it might be being productive, doing something with my life outside of work as an outlet. Now I see how I let myself down by not doing much otherwise. So if I increase the current, what I achieve with my time, then I could turn the pressure that we as adults simply have to face every day into power, energy. I think I would finally feel alive again. Helping that guy today certainly made me feel that way. Adam was silent for a moment. You know, I think you might be onto something. Yes, Gideon, this is great. I can see you teaching. Maybe have your own channel on YouTube. You're not an expert for nothing. You've got to pass this knowledge on. Easy there. I just took a bit of time to help a guy I happened to meet. What is so special about that? It is because not everybody has the knowledge, and you explained it to him on eye level, the way he needed it. But isn't that how it should be? We older ones should not look down upon younger folks and put them down. Instead, I feel we should help them overcome obstacles we bested already, by lifting them up. Offer a helping hand whenever we can. I learned a lot from you too, so give yourself some credit, if you think I did well today. Okay, sharing the soil. Who am I to deny you that? But let me tell you that explaining adult life with the elements of electricity is indeed so proto-gen of you. Oh, come on. Hey, just saying your new self suits you. Sadly, I have to head off again. Observing your encounter with that stranger took most of the time I had left. I wanted to tell you, though, that I remembered what your avatar reminds me of. Huh? What is it? That old TV show you loved back then. Digimon. What Spartan just said rushed through Gideon's mind. Ah. You're right. I can't see what you mean. Spartan was silent, and this once Gideon wished he could see his actual face, for he bet his friend was smiling. I guess I have my moments. I'm sorry that I have to head off now, but I look forward to talking to you more about all that is going on. Still, believe me, this one bit. I'm thrilled to see where you go from here. Thanks, buddy, and it's okay. I should do some thinking now anyway. Without another word, Spartan vanished, and Gideon was once more alone. He reloaded the world into a private instance where nobody would disturb him. Memories of a birthday long ago surfaced. Out of all the supposed friends he had invited, none showed up. Some made up excuses, lied, and even left him waiting in vain. It ended as one of the loneliest days of his life, betrayed and disappointed. Then there was hope. One day he watched TV and saw a show called Digimon. How such unlike beings could be friends, be loyal and brave for each other. It was all that he had always wished for in life. An emotion warming and comforting, a source of calm and strength. As Gideon realized now, it was the same emotion that he felt when he saw himself as a protogen. Every world here contained at least one mirror, and this was no exception. Looking in with a new understanding what it meant to him, the hope it carried, he leaned in against the mirror, thinking. When did he lose this hope? He felt like talking to this being, vainly trying to put into words what was on his heart. What happened that I lost you? Or did I lock you away? He tried to recall his path through life, retracing his steps. When did it happen? I went through high school and you were there. I attended university and you were the wind in my sail. Then my first job. You kept me afloat. was stressful, so much pressure. And then Gideon stopped in his trail of thoughts. Then Dad died. It was too much for you, wasn't it? Or too much for me? You got hurt one too many times and hid away from the world. Or did I hide you away so nobody could hurt you ever again? Not allowing any thought of how silly it may look, he made the motion of embracing this creature from the other side of the mirror. A feeling of once again being complete wrapped him in calm, and he felt all the lighter, a weight falling off his heart. I always wished for this image of friendship to be true, to exist and to be that way myself. Hopefully I always showed Spartan how much I value him. Do not know, but from now on, as long as I have you with me, I can be that way with certainty. Please, help me be the person for others that hardly anybody was for me. Gideon felt too excited and awake to go off. Thousands of worlds lay at his feet, ready to be explored. Without the doubt and sadness weighting him down, world hopping was even more fun. One after another, he visited floating islands, traditional towns, futuristic games, and many creative works. After over an hour of traveling, he found himself in a world with wolf avatars on offer, and remembered Spartan's request. Gideon tried them out and found 2 good candidates that he saved for his friend. The night was perfect. Now he even found something he was sure Spartan would love. Gideon wanted to change back into his protogen avatar. When he opened the panel with his saved avatars, panic rose within him. The avatar wasn't there. It must be a glitch, he thought, a kind of bug in the client. Frantically he searched his menus, up and down, until it dawned upon him. I never saved the avatar. I was so excited when I found it that I forgot, he thought. All he had saved was his old cartoony fox avatar and Spartan's wolves. So he became his old fox self again. Gideon wondered, what if he would not find him again? It was in a public world that he had found the protogen, so he tried to retrace his steps. Where was he in the beginning? What world was it? A chase across the universe began, and for many more hours he jumped worlds in the hope to find that one place where his beloved protogen lived. It did not help that he indeed felt like his old self again. The shame that his clumsiness carried, whispering him thoughts that tore at his heart and pushed him down. The search was in vain. After hours he had no more idea where to go and where his protogen may be. It was 4 in the morning, and he looked off. This is so silly for a man of my age, he thought, but interrupted himself. No, I won't go back to my old self. I have to find him. He searched the internet for ways to find avatars. Maybe he had overlooked some. At some point, he came across an online post that recommended installing a client modification to enable an avatar search. The thought of modifying the client felt wrong. Dangerous. There were warnings about such modifications in the loading screens. But he felt he already lost something dear and vital. Driven and desperate, he weighed the odds and installed the modification. taking no risk for his protogen. That felt like betrayal. It did not take long for the client to load. His homeworld appeared around him, the menu screen enhanced with new options, including an avatar search. Gideon remembered the name of his avatar and typed it in. The search results came up and he scrolled through them. Reddish, bluish protogen with different emblems. Some with fluffy tails, some with sharp tails, scrolled past. Silly ones, tiny ones, a wide selection. His protogen was not on page 1, not on page 2. Gideon scrolled faster, nervous and panicked, trying to get the better of him. Page 3, page 4 flew by, and 5 was the last one. He looked carefully and thought he finally found him. He pressed load. In the mirror, his protogen smiled back at him. Eager to not lose him again, he immediately saved it. Gideon sat on the floor and sighed. Thank God. I thought I lost you. He looked in the mirror. The protogen passively stared back. Then it began to dawn upon him. What have I done? Was I so impatient? I'm risking all this, risking you because I could not wait to find you? A chill crept up his spine, and he shivered. He could get banned for this. He leaned in against the mirror, forehead to forehead with his reflection. No, I don't want to lose you. He looked up into his own eye. It was only a few minutes, and I was only in my home, did nothing but look for you. It will be fine. I will restore my client and never use a mod again. Once he had removed all traces of the modification, he logged on again. Still he could not shed this existential fear, like sitting at the bedside of a dying friend. All he did was wait in his virtual home, cowered against the wall opposite the mirror. It will be fine, he told his reflection. It was then that he realized how much he got sucked into this world. The last few days he lived more here than in the real world. He crawled close to the mirror. Kneeling, he leaned in against his reflection, arms raised against the glass looking for support. I once saw a movie about the Lebanon War. The young soldiers had a hard time coping with the surrounding reality. One of them was a photographer. He only looked at the world through his camera, and the lenses breaking the light of reality shielded him from the truth. He looked up and almost believed to see sympathy in the eyes on the other side. And tears ran down from under his VR headset. When they came to a group of stables, the stench of death lay in the air. The poor horses were dead or dying. And it was then that the photographer's shield broke. And reality hit him. His camera could no longer stand in between him and the truth. I'm afraid now that all this is a lie. That I fooled myself. That nothing changed. Will I wake up to find you never existed? He sobbed, and the protogen seemed to smile at him, as if he cared. Thank you, he whispered. That moment the world froze. A message popped up. You are banned. He was in shock. It took him an unknown amount of time till he took his headset off. And when he did, he knelt on the floor, alone in his apartment. He went to bed. There was nothing else he could do. His mind was blank. Eventually, he managed to get some sleep. The next morning, Gideon got up and stood in front of the mirror, tired, bloodshot eyes looking back at him. He wanted it to be over. Better a fool for a weekend than to hold on to this for weeks. So he took a deep breath and listened to whatever there may be within his heart, expecting only the cold emptiness that a lie would leave behind. Yet, in his chest there was something. It took him a moment to realize, but the feeling he had when he looked in the mirror in this virtual world was not gone. Like a kindling fire, it was still there, and he realized that all that he loved about his protogen came from within. All the values, all the hope and dreams were still there. The avatar was the canvas he painted his own once hidden self on. He began to daydream, and imagination overlaid his reflection. Touched the mirror and smiled. I see it now. You were always within me. My hopes and values. I got hurt often, and back then I hid you away to no longer get hurt. You were always there with me, on my path through life. You are the foundation that I can draw guidance from, rely upon. Once I wanted to protect you. Now it is you who protects my soul. The last piece fell in place. The aspect he admired most about these creatures he saw on TV, Digimon, was that, with great effort, they could evolve into a more powerful and better version of themselves. For themselves and for others. Could he maybe evolve too? Was he already evolving? He felt renewed, a growing confidence within. No matter what happens now, all I need to know is that I have somebody to back me up. I need to be my own backup, then I can be there for others too. Backup. He slapped his own forehead. My backup? Gideon rushed to his computer. That day I worked in home office and the IP phone didn't work. The manager sent me the instructions via email and deleted them from the server again. But my backup was running. He checked the backup of the day. The deleted emails were there, and a daring thought crossed his mind, a smile forming. I got you now, you bastard. A plan formed, and he made a call. Hey, Sarah, sorry to disturb you on a Sunday, but it is urgent. Can you get the other team leads together early on Monday? I have a plan. Yes, we will save this company. The next day they all met in secret and came to an agreement. Gideon wrote up a proposal and made copy. On Tuesday, he marched to the gallows. In the big meeting room, the CEO, his manager, and the board of the company were all present. The CEO opened the meeting. I think I need not tell you why we're here. The limited editions of our new console are failing, and negative news is making the headlines. She addressed the manager. We need an explanation. We are talking about a technical fault caused by the engineering team. I gave instructions to our senior electrical engineer here, and I ask you forgiveness because he is my responsibility. With your support, I will deal with the issue accordingly. The CEO addressed Gideon. Do you have anything to say on this matter? I have. Substantially. Please pass these along and each take a copy. Gideon said, and in addition to this proposal, handed the CEO alone a copy of the emails from his manager overriding his recommendations to keep the cooling unit. What is this about? His manager asked. Sir, you ordered me to remove the active cooling unit to cut costs. The consoles are powering off because people put them in enclosed spaces, against the advice in the manual. I talked to the other team leads, and we have a proposal to fix the situation, saving the face of the company. Because the cooling unit was removed last minute, the case and hardware are still the same and built to house such a unit. All teams, including mine, agreed to do voluntary overtime to retrofit the limited run consoles in-house, cutting costs to a minimum. Marketing suggests we paint this as a mistake. We fix for our customers for free. Gideon's manager looked like he was about to say something, but the CEO cut him off with a gesture and read through the document and emails. The meeting was over fairly quick. She asked Gideon to stay while everybody left. Alone with the CEO, he wondered what would happen now. He had been unusually bold today. I wished you had told me earlier about the issues with your manager, but I also know how hard that can be. You already worked here under my father and pioneered our game console program. It is important to me that you know you can always come to me with issues. You are not just an employee to this company. You are part of our foundation. Your plan is sound, and I'm sure it will work. Thus, I see no reason for any changes in personnel, except for your manager. I will make sure you get somebody who listens better. That said, I have to admit I'm glad to see how you showed teeth today. You never kick down, and your team likes you. But please, kick up more often. I cannot tell you good job yet, but I will do so when this crisis is over. I'm sure. After the workday was over, Gideon went home. Once again, he stepped into the same old elevator of his apartment building. People streamed into the elevator as he took his place by the button. Gideon wanted to press the button for the 14th floor, but this time decided differently. Higher up, all the way to the top was where he wanted to go. While ascending, he looked about, memorizing the different faces. One by one, his neighbors got off on the floors, and the cabin emptied until he was alone. On the top floor, he climbed a stairwell leading to the roof and opened the heavy door. A blast of fresh air met him as he opened it. The sun was setting. He leaned onto the railing and let his gaze wander. He saw the city tinted in a hue of blue, red, and purple. Yes, I see it again. A world of possibility. I'm no longer afraid of change or tragedy. I will remember and hold dear all the good in my past, and leave a trail of footsteps from the beginning to however long I may last. And then I will be who I want to be. Nothing else but my true self to see on the unknown road ahead. For all there is on the other side of the mirror is you. The end. And a special thank you to my friend and editor who helped me polish up the story for today.
Fantastic.
That was absolutely amazing. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, folks. Wonder, shall we reposition the camera for the discussion round now? Because it's up to you and the people on the chat what they want to talk about. Okay.
Can agree.
Well, now you find me speechless. Thanks for everybody who stayed and listened. And yeah, we can now go over to Q&A. Maybe folks come a bit closer. You're too far away for my taste. Hmm.
Just note that I do have not house guests, but housemates. So if there is any background noise, I do apologize for that. But look, the first thing that I'd like to ask is inspiration, particularly because just sort of backgrounding on that. Personally, I felt very well connected with your main characters, except for the protogen part. But as I guess, I don't know, can we call ourselves middle-aged at 30? I'm not sure. Beginning middle-aged?
Yeah, I think so.
As we are getting older, it does sort of feel very, very similar that these characters that you have begin to talk to... it spoke to me directly. So what was your inspiration going on with that?
Well, I'm also now approaching my 40s. And when I write, I draw inspiration from what I observe, like what I observe around me and within myself. One thing, it was in the beginning said that this took 4 or 5 months to work on. I checked, and in reality it was 2 months since the first draft, and 2 weeks of these 2 months where I did nothing to get away from the story. So beginning of this year, I first got into VRChat and paying attention to what this here is, thinking about, well, in times of Corona, for example, this is a really good meeting place for people. This is a social sphere, but it's controlled by a company. You can get kicked out for every reason. And observing how I felt about this place here, suddenly I had the urge to write. So I wrote a first concept. First concept was like 2,700 words written down one evening in one go to just capture the emotion that I wanted to capture. And then I started fledging it out. And then more and more of what I knew from my own life and what I observed went into this. And eventually, at some point, it was 9,000 words long and the story was there. So, slice of life, I would say. If that answers your question.
It definitely does. And thank you for the answer. I really do appreciate that. So we do have a question from the audience as well. I'm just we can mix it up, yeah?
I'm fine with that.
So question here, how did the story come about is another one. Like, and I know that we sort of kind of answered that, but like more directly, why exactly your character choices maybe?
They felt right. I mean, when I got into VRChat, I picked this avatar for myself. So I have never looked at protogen species before, but I kind of liked them. So I thought, hey, I will just pick them. Wow. And then the different characters. I mean, Gideon was the central figure of the story. And we can maybe go into story writing itself a bit later, then you will see why I built it around him. And he needed another character for his own development and to offer another perspective. And from my own perspective, I feel it often happens when you get older that suddenly friends have a family, they have children, they go their own way, and they drift away naturally. But sometimes, if both take effort, it works, and they stay in contact. So I felt such a character I wanted to have, but this is a short story. These characters, they felt right. If it was a really long-running story, I would build them up a bit more by the book, maybe I would say. Build them on specific archetypes. This here worked out, and I tried it, and it felt right.
Thank you for that. Yeah, sorry. No, carry on.
When it comes to how such a story comes about, I think they also want to know how this evolves. So as I said, there was a first concept that was narrative summary. There was no dialogue in there. It was summarizing what I wanted to catch and get down. Then over the time, I replaced these parts of the narrative summary with actual dialogue. The principle of show, don't tell is applied then here. You as the readers should have a chance to, or listeners in that case, you should have a chance to find your own spot in this world. And this only works when you show and not just tell. You have to come to your own conclusions, what the characters are feeling, what they are doing, why they are doing that. And because you are coming to this conclusion, you become part of the world. It is your idea. You're not just being told he felt bad or was stressed. He threw his coat and briefcase onto the couch. Then more polishing, and together with my friend that I really dearly thank, because you basically need an editor. You need a fresh mind to look at the text, because you get so lost in the text that you see what you wanted to say, not what you wrote. That is also why I took a 2-week break from it at some point to be able to look at it with fresh eyes again. He's so amazing. He actually accepted my request to do the entire editing of the story, like going through it, cutting out parts that don't work, rephrasing parts that don't work, grammar checking, all in one go. We sat at the desk for 12 hours straight. And then, yeah, in this case here, for such a panel, I had to read the story in some way. So I've never done this before. I used a teleprompter software that only I could see in my field of view, and I needed to edit the script in a way that the continuous scroll of such a software would not be too fast or too slow, and that I could also inject the right pauses. So that was a lot of trial and error to try to get right, and it is rare for me, but I think I'm happy with how it went for me. That is how it was.
So your character, his basis is found within the furry fandom, right? How many people do you really think that have that same perspective as Gideon? This person that feels a disconnect from his fandom, and do you think this is something that's limited to the furry fandom only?
No, it's definitely not limited. No, it's definitely not limited to fandom. I think this is a natural thing happening when you transition from school and university life to the working world, because life changes. You suddenly have a full-time job, and you have to be much more careful how you spend your time, but you still have old habits. For example, this is one thing that I noticed with myself. I could not enjoy video games or reading really anymore because I always felt I had something to do. But I felt this is what I need to do to unwind, because that is what I did back then. So I think this is not fandom specific at all, but I think it's community specific. Be that your friends or family, your local community, or whatever community you are part of. You can no longer invest as much time as before. And so you drift away, you see the people changing, your own perspective changes, your understanding of yourself. And I mean, a writer should observe, as I hinted already. And I somehow always try to understand what's going on and observe what's going on outside of me and inside of me. Like, see what reaction it triggers what I see and try to understand it. So I saw all kinds of people. I saw young people who are really good personalities, smart, and on their way to adulthood. But I also saw a lot of older folks who they appeared like they were at a dead end in their life. Basically giving up, letting themselves go, or sinking into being morose characters. And there's all sides of the spectrum, and I wondered, well, these can't be individual things happening. And what I feel can't also be an individual thing. There must be a common ground for everybody, and I think this disconnect between generations and views with what we learned and how we approach it, how we talk to other people, it's another learning experience, a challenge in life.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think the other two really hit on the questions I was going to have, but I was just going to say that was really...
Sorry, Tempest, I was asked to tell you, can you please unmute yourself in Discord? I'm sorry, I'm serious.
No, you're okay. I was just going to say, no, I think the two had questions that were on my mind for the most part. I just want to say, very well done. I right there with Ivan when I could see myself in this, and it hit home for me. So very well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not gonna say that I was crying at some point, but
Yeah,
I've been crying a lot today. Just saying.
I had to hold back a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the entire situation here is moving. I mean, all you folks here are doing such an amazing work here with the convention, raising money for the charity, which people can still donate to if they want to. It's amazing to me to see what you achieve with the means that you have available. So, in a sense, Tempest, when I got to know you, I read you a really old story of mine, Memories Die Slower.
Yeah, I recall it.
And we already had the idea, maybe there would be a chance that I could read a story as a panel to support you folks. And then there was a lucky coincidence that I happened to have a story in me that I wanted to get out, and I managed to do it in time. And it's great feeling to be a part, adding a little bit to what you're doing here. So I think we all have a lot to be grateful for today.
Definitely.
That we can do this here even.
Okay, going to questions in the chat.
Sorry. Are you going to Sudan?
Yeah, I'm going to
Sudan.
Yeah, I'm going to Sudan's question. Sudan asking,
All right.
or is it balloon? Yeah, blue no dear. As a greymuzzle myself, do you think that older furs have a important mentorship role to play in the fandom?
Yes, definitely. I think that we older ones, I say that I'm old, but next year I'm getting 40. Many people wouldn't say that I'm old, but to the fandom I am. But we understand a few things that we learn through life. And what we maybe now need to learn is how to pass that on to other people in the sense of offering it. I mean, not shoving it down younger folks' throats, that doesn't work. But to be there. And by what we do, offering a role model, an example of what we think works better. And I think that a lot of the younger folks on the fandom who are just trying to find their place, I mean, a lot of folks come onto the fandom trying to find a place. They're overwhelmed with how welcoming it is, really. To them, we can be a very powerful force of comfort and guidance in a sense. But, in my opinion, it needs to be by example, not by pushing people into what we believe the right direction is. So yes, definitely, we can be that way, but it takes work.
Okay, then question from Ray. I'd like to ask how you feel about VR and what role it plays in the future of ourselves and the identities of society.
That is an interesting one because VR is not going to go away. It is evolving. And to me, VR is the same like when the computer mouse was invented. In the beginning, people didn't know how to use it best. They needed to experiment how to do it, and back then nobody thought you needed one. But we are figuring out more and more what we can do with VR. And the last weeks, we have met up here. I mean, we could already video chat, we could voice, we could be with our friends in a sense. But this year, we are scattered around the globe. Some are in the US, South Africa, Germany. We are divided by geographical distances. But all the other distances are vanishing. We feel close to each other in a sense. And I always believed that the internet had a chance to show people that we are not that different and offer a better understanding for each other in different countries and cultures, and get excited about what other groups of people do to become like a global community. I don't think that's working. At least working out in the way as back in the 2000s people dreamed about it. It's a global village, the vision that we had there. But here, when we do such projects together, we sit at virtual cafes and just talk. We see facial expressions, head movements. This is translated into the virtual world and makes us feel much closer already, as if you are there. There's not that much missing, except the physical touch. But you're wearing avatars. And I always wonder, hey, I look like maybe a cute protogen now. In reality, I think, well, I'm just an ugly-ass human, as usual. As I would call myself now, not everybody else. So there is a break between what the avatar shows and what the real person looks like. So to me, it's important that if you are getting friends with a person, show them what they really look like. So when I once met friends in a different country, we knew what we looked like, and there was no break. I arrived at the train station, my buddy later told me, hey, it felt like, there he is again. But we have never met in real life. But the avatars, Tempest, that you can be a Nanachi, that we can be protogen, wolves, or whatever. Our choices of avatars, to me, the choice is of course not at random. There is an internal connection that you show this way. Maybe you show a different side of yourself. Likewise, I feel that these avatars, because they do not look like your real self, are indeed a little bit like an armor around your true self. You can be more outgoing because people do not see your real self. You can change your look. So it's interesting to me to see where this goes, because this is virtual, but is it real? Philosophical question. What is real? We are, of course, seeing this here for real now. It's programmed, but it is a real sensory expression. We are having this experience of hanging out, talking, and seeing with depth perception a physical being close to us. And usually there's a background story behind that avatar. So it will be very interesting to see where this goes, and I hope that we as mankind can do the best with this technology. We are an infant species. We learn. We are only learning to use the internet. Now we have virtual reality. We also need to learn how to use that.
Okay, KiDra. I do have a question actually. So with all that you've been saying, that like I'm just stating that like it's what you're sort of insinuating here is that there's so much to be able to do, so much to be able to interact with, so much to be able to be around at this point. And I'm wondering if it's not necessarily happening to, say, people who are slightly older, people who are now maybe reaching into the 30s and 40s. Is there ever a feeling, and especially for those of us, I'm going to mention it like that, the ones who are having children, who are interacting with the world almost in this double state? Because I know that there's the triple state as well, which is, you know, character, real life self, and then whatever we want to be as individuals. How do we begin to find a way to synergize all of that together? Is there even a sort of healthy way to do that? Or do you think that sometimes we might lose ourselves? So the people who are becoming adults, and I call this adults, so 30 now is the new adult. with kids, with other responsibilities. How do we begin to start dealing with that?
Well, honestly, imagine when the book print was a thing. It was new. Teachers would be mad at the pupils using paper. Because how will they memorize anything when they no longer write on a chalkboard? And back then, how can these kids read? You know, they get totally lost in these worlds and no longer deal with reality. It's the same old thing again with every new technology. And honestly, in my opinion, books are a really good escape because you have a story on rails. You do not need to make decisions, but your mind creates the world. So you can get lost in books. You can get lost in video games. And I see how tempting it is to get lost in virtual reality as well. I think it's an age-old problem, just new technology. If it is worse than what we had before, no idea. We can already get addicted to smartphone use. So.
Thank you for that. I think there's one last question in chat.
Yeah, there is one more story. Like, someone is asking, in terms, where can I read your other stories?
I will post this story on my account on furry. It's KiDra.furry.com. I just have to ask you forgiveness because my account is user restricted, as in you need to have a furry account to log in. I'm a bit private there. I don't want every crawler on the web to just crawl my profile. That's why it's restricted, but try it out. You find everything that I have there. Just, I don't write much. I have not written for years. This was the story that got me back into writing and allowed me to build a habit of writing a little bit every day. I want to get back into it, and well, at that topic, I didn't write for years because I thought I was not good enough. Simple as that. Now I tried, I learned in the meantime, and in my opinion got better. So I will write more in the future, but I'm not making the mistake anymore of making promises because then I feel pressured. I'm rambling, sorry.
If I could say, please do write more.
Thank you, Alec.
Okay, here's one question that's been early posted in chat that I wanted to ask from Phasman himself. How do one start writing? How does one start writing?
Oh, the big question. Well, as I said, I haven't written for a few years now because I started to look into how to write properly. And once you look into that, there is a plethora of books and advice out there, and you have no idea what's valid or not, and you can get totally lost in reading books about writing instead of writing. So, what I can tell you is what I learned and believe to be true. I do not call myself an expert, so keep in mind, I can be wrong. I'm just learning. But how does somebody start writing? Well, you do not need fancy software, you just need something to put the text down on. The manuscript for Star Wars, for example, was written on, yellow note paper with a pencil. How does a story start? Well, when I looked into how to write properly, I saw all sorts of advice. Like sometimes you get the advice, write a hero's journey. Or just sit down. Emotionally open your arteries and bleed on the paper, and you can shuffle it around later on. Both don't work if you take it literal. The one is called plotting, the other is called pantsing. These are two schools who often fight with each other. If you take them to an extreme, doesn't work. Here's why. I will ask you a question now. And this is what was my big aha effect. My big, light bulb goes on. And I've been doing this apparently by chance, right? What is a story? Simple question. What is a story?
A retelling of events, either be it fictional or
Hmm?
Real?
The
Well,
story is whatever you want it to be.
I don't want
mean-
to wait.
No. Go, Ivik, go.
No?
Go.
Everything, like, whatever happens in your life is a story. History is literally his story. It's kind of sexist, but kind of. But the thing is, I think stories, again, everything and anything that you want it to be. A story could literally be he died. That's a story. Because it
Yeah.
involves a character, it involves what happened to them, and it doesn't like everything else. We have what's the word, haiku stories these days. Every kind of poetry that we have out there. You're talking to literature, like, well, I used to do literature, but I'm more linguistics. But we understand that everything that you want it to be can be a story. It doesn't need to be restricted to anything. It can be one word,
Hmm.
and that's still a story.
Yeah.
Well,
Here's the thing.
No, good. Yeah.
We are looking at this here from a different perspective because, in a sense of writing, a story is what gets people hooked and they want to read. So we already had a distinction there, like events, like things that happen in a world. We call that plot. That is not a story at all. The plot is almost irrelevant to a story. We as mammals, we are hardwired to respond to a certain thing that we call story and story writing, which is the inner journey of a character and how they change and cope with events that are thrown at them. So what you do is, a story starts always in the middle. This means there have been events and a history in the world and the person that you want to write about. And you want to write about a person, not about a string of events. You think up a character and you give them a flaw. Because the flaw is what they need to overcome during the story, what will cause them trouble. So, grab a psychology book, give them something serious that they can overcome. For example, being paralyzed from the waist down is not a flaw, that is a condition. But, well, not accepting this situation and always trying it to be different, not accepting it and getting depressed, that is a problem, the way you think about it. And that is what a character can change, what can improve over time. So, and we get hooked to that because when the brain is faced with such a story, it sees an opportunity for self-improvement without getting into the same dangerous situation. So there is something that we naturally respond to that makes it a page-turner, that you cannot put down anymore. And then it isn't even that important how well it's written otherwise. But you want to polish the diamond, of course. So a story rests on 3 legs. Character arc, the pacing, and the theme. You always have a topic in your story. There's always a central theme that you're writing about. These are the 3 things you need to nail. That is the story. The plot, the events, can be entirely swapped out, and that happens with writers. They write a book and see this doesn't work, and they write the same story with different plot again to make it work. And this, for me, is the magical thing, because I said before, the pantsers who just open the arteries and start writing without any other preparation, they do not have a flaw, and they do not have a character they know. So they write. I'm probably insulting to people now for whom this works, because there's always exceptions to this rules. For some people it works because they have an inherent feeling for how it works. It's chance that it works. Likewise, plotters who plan everything perfectly, they are restricting themselves too much. So the good thing is, if you start with a character that has a history and a flaw to overcome, you are still free in your plot. You can go on that journey with your character together and write. When you know this, then you can start pantsing and write. Explore a bit what will happen, but you have the key points down. So that is, in my opinion, how you start. And there's a lot of good resources out there. You just need to weed them out. For example, archetypes. don't write stereotypes. Stereotypes are cliché descriptions like the policeman, the inspector, the whatever. Archetypes are born from old Greek mythology character types like the king or the dictator. They have specific character traits and usually certain sidekick characters that they need for improvement to overcoming flaws. But these are blueprints. You build on that. You just not take them and say, this is my character. So you layer them. You give them issues to overcome. They have an internal goal. Your character has an internal goal for the story, which is overcoming the flaw. But they also have an external goal. Imagine we have a hero who wants to win the women of his dreams over. He could be failing at this external goal, but still succeed at the internal goal, which would be a satisfying story with a bit more ambiguity. So yeah, if you want to start, write. You have to write. I didn't do it for so long, so I'm now learning, or rather, I'm honing my skills with the things that I learned in the meantime. And don't try to do too many new things at once. Limit yourself to 1 or 2 things that you want to improve every time, that you can manage to do, because otherwise you are trying to lift a too heavy weight. And that demotivates, because the central thing about writing is have fun. You want to express something, usually something that is dear to you. You're creating characters whom you want to give a life. And that should be fun. So for me, it was hard to accept that I could not just go from 0 to hero by sheer willpower. But with this story here that I narrated today, writing that, I began to accept, well, I'm making steps. It's a journey of improvement. And my opinions on things can change. I will learn new things. Maybe I will discover that a few things that I just told you about were wrong, or haven't understood fully yet. But the thing is, as long as you can look back, like 5 years from now, I think I will look back and cringe at a few things that I did in the story. This is good, because I got better. And this year was good for what it was and for what I could do. I gave it my best shot, and that is perfectly fine. The rest is improvement and acceptance over time. And thank you, folks, that you liked it so much. That tells me I'm on the right track.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us, KiDra.
Sorry. Yeah. What was it? Yeah, Chris, go for it.
You have a question, Chris?
I just have a quick question. Could we perhaps maybe have you narrate another story in the future?
Sure, if I have one ready.
Because I would definitely like to listen to it again. I think the way you told it was kind of nice. The way you changed your physical direction even, I think it added to it.
Thank you, Chris.
If I can...
And I added this changing of direction specifically because I cannot do different voices yet. This is one thing that I identified I want to learn, but I said, okay, I'm not trying to do this after, just practicing for 1 week. That doesn't work. So I did go with what I want, but thank you. I want to do that, definitely.
Funny enough, talking about voices, there was actually mentioned in chat by Ivik himself that you have a... What was it, Ivik?
Oh no.
Should I read it?
Yeah, why not? Not off the top of my head, can I remember?
Like, if I can just find
Buttery?
it. Yeah, buttery. Like, apparently, KiDra, you have a very buttery voice when reading and talking.
And apparently we should have a voiceover off.
Yeah, no, definitely you have a buttery voice. Very, very smooth.
Yes.
What does a buttery voice mean? I'm sorry, I never heard that before.
So
Just
a voice
smooth,
that,
sultry.
yes, something you can fall asleep to at times.
Thank you.
Like, okay, so let me put it to you like this. So when you're listening to, I tend to listen to a large amount of creepypastas, and some of the people who speak there tend to like literally put me to sleep like that. And that is not a bad thing. It's just that I can calm down enough to just sit down and go, this is where I can be for a while. And
Thank you.
I'm gone. So that's great.
You see, what I already had in mind for longer is that I want to start recording my own audiobooks. So I'm looking into how can I do more with my voice? Because in an audiobook, I cannot turn around, but I need in some way to help the listener to understand who's talking. So that is on my to-do list to do. And I want to record my own audiobooks in the sense of that I record me narrating my own stories. I enjoy it in some way. Telling stories.
Go for it, dude. Go for it.
All right. I will.
Alrighty then, gents. Okay, so I've just been informed we literally got 5 minutes before we have to change over to the next panel. So if there's any questions still in chat or that you gentlemen want to ask, by all means, you've got time now. Just one thing that I'm going to mention in chat now from Cataphobia. He's saying there is a Japanese way of telling stories where it's one person telling the whole thing and playing all the characters. You kind of remind me of that.
Thank you. That's a great compliment.
Alrighty, Cyrus, you have anything you want to ask?
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Very nice. It was very great to listen to.
Chris, anything from your
Thank
side?
you all for being here.
I'm good for now, but thank you again. This was amazing.
Ivik, anything from your side?
Thumbs up, man. All good.
Again, KiDra, amazing
Thank you all
story.
too.
Again, like, this is me hearing it for the second time, but again, it literally, I'm not gonna lie, like, if people could see it on stream, I was plucking tears in my VR set, like, literally, of what an amazing story it is. Like, it really touches a lot of people in a very related way, and especially, I might not be a older generation for myself. I'm in my late 20s though, but aspects of how real life has hit me in the same very way as your story has told. You know, I can relate so much, and it has touched, I think, a lot of people in a very personal way, but also in a very positive way, if I have to bring it out in such way.
Thank you, and well, I'm glad to see what a success this panel was, and thank you for the opportunity. It's you people who made this possible, and just thank you for what you do. It's amazing, and thank you for being here. Thanks to the audience. I'm really glad that you liked it, and yeah. See you another time, hopefully.
Okay, so I think you can change over.
Yippers.